So I'm promoting Sarah Catalanato. So there's your speaker.
Thank you.
Hello.
Hi, Sarah.
Hi.
Just give it a few minutes to get our. Hello, this is Patricia. Hi.
Okay.
Hi. I'm just waiting for my committee members to join.
I just didn't want to be late. Don't feel pressed by me at all.
Okay.
I can do something else.
And I believe Lupe is joining us tonight.
She said she was come through. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm just waiting for our other committee members to join. Hi, Cheryl.
Hi guys. Sorry, I'm like, I'll be home soon. So, but that's why I'm off camera for a second. Sorry.
No worries.
Hello.
Okay. I'm just waiting for my other committee members to join.
No problem. And I'll be on camera in just a moment.
No worries. Give it, I don't know, 3 minutes. Hi, Rich. Hi, Keen. Just, I guess 1 more minute and then we'll start. Just waiting for, do we have quorum?
I have a Judson search committee at 8. So
okay.
If we're not done by 8, I'll log off.
All right, no worries. All right, we'll do 1 more minute before we start.
Okay. So, hey, Rich, how are you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm good. You look like you're all bundled up. Are you outside?
No, I'm not. Just thought I would look better than just a t-shirt underneath.
Oh.
No, no.
Right. And our new administrator, tell me your name again. I guess he's muted. What's his name?
Oh, Mark.
Mark Diller.
Mark Diller. How are you
Sorry,
doing?
multitasking.
Mark,
nice to meet you.
No, he clarified for me, no relation to Barry. He said.
That's right.
That he had nothing to do with Little Island, Mark said.
I'm old enough that I used to have to say that I was no relation to Phyllis, but
there you go. That's a good one. Phyllis Diller. Mark, thanks for telling me about the 13th.
I'm glad that that got clarified. Glad.
Yeah, I'm really struggling with how to position that that resolution. I don't know, or not to write a resolution and to split it into 2 or something.
Okay.
What was that about, Rich?
Oh, it's about the space at the water tunnel site at 388 Hudson. That's the southern half of the space next to City S School.
Right, I know the space. That's
Right.
where we want to put housing.
Right. So the city has claimed the northern half for housing, but really no clear definition of size or scale or whether it could do indoor or anything. And so there's a real push from Parks Department to use the southern side as a passive recreation, but very limited because, you know, the access that that's required by emergency vehicles and these vents that come up. And so they're saying, why not let us spend the money to do it with the bid? Do you remember, Keen, too? Do you remember how the bid is the facilitator, or no, they manage this fund that was created when we did the zoning change? And,
Right.
they've got 5 million in that, and we're saying, well, maybe it should go to other open spaces other than that one. So I don't know.
Lots of luck. Yeah, you've got a hard committee.
We have no consensus on the committee of what to do.
Well, you just have to figure it out and tell them.
Yeah, I get accused of doing that too much. I don't think that's right on this. I don't know. I think yeah.
I'm gonna start the meeting now. It's 6:35. Welcome everyone to the February Schools and Education Committee meeting. My name is Patricia Laria and I'm the committee chair. Mara Fitzgerald is the vice chair. She'll be joining in a few minutes. I'm going to name our committee members. I see Cheryl Wu, I see Rich Cacapolo, I see King Berger, and we have our new district manager on the call, Mark Diller. Who else? I'll just start. Tonight's meeting, we're joined by Sarah Catalanato of Parents to Improve School Transportation, who will be giving a presentation about school buses and student transportation, of Parents to Improve School Transportation, along with Lupe Hernandez of the Public Advocate's Office. We had also invited the Office of Pupil Transportation at the Department of Education this evening, but they declined, saying they had a scheduling conflict. I just want to go over some house rules. Please be respectful to whoever is speaking. Do not type derogatory comment in the chat. Attendees will be on mute. Due to time constraints, we may not be able to answer all questions. And without further ado, I will hand this over to Sarah Catalanato to start her presentation. Thank you.
Good evening. Thank you for having us. And also, thank you, Lupe, for coming in. Oh, I like your background. We are, of course, a volunteer group of parents, a grassroots group, but because we've been sort of monitoring and watching what goes on with school busing and other aspects of student transportation for almost 13 years, we hope that we can be helpful in pointing you towards a lot of the resources that your community members and especially parents and grandparents and caregivers may come to you with hope that we can also kind of zoom out and talk about why there's sort of a crisis in this service at this time and what our organization and our network and a lot of organized parent leaders and advocates are collaborating to do, in which it's right now very much of a squeaky wheel situation. Problem routes are created, and those who go through all the hoops of complaining and get it perhaps escalated by having different advocates write to certain people at the Office of Pupil Transportation can get a quicker set of attention put to it. But that's not, that's not a system-wide improvement. That's not a real process that benefits everybody. It's pick and choose as to which problems get resolved and which ones just get shifted, somewhere down the line. So that's what I'm coming to you with. The information that I can show you, I don't know if I can do a screen share. Looks like I can. So let me do that. I'm gonna try anyway.
Yeah. Could you just give us a little bit of an overview of what the scope of the problem is? What are you talking about?
Sure. Okay, then. All right. So don't share. Okay. We got together because we found that the kids had very long routes and changes to the routes without a lot of notice. Unreasonably going, zigging and zagging and doing things that one bus shouldn't have to do. And these things are still happening, and the software that they use hasn't changed. Another issue was stopping at one school that has a certain dismissal and then going to another school and sitting there idle until that other school has their very different dismissal time. Things that add on to the route duration unnecessarily. We also found that children of different ages, different needs and classifications on special education routes are routed together, and there's no policy for distinguishing a kindergartner from a 12th grader, including in the length of time that they are allowed to be on the bus officially, not even counting when, when it goes over that amount, it's already very long. We learned by having many exchanges with the school bus drivers and attendants and mechanics union, which is ATU Local 1181, that when my son was little, that's my second child, riding the bus around 2009-10, they wouldn't bring back all of the workers from the summer. So they were laid off and they wouldn't bring them back in time for the first day of school. So that was a change that had happened since my oldest child, who used to have pretty much the same driver year after year and no changes. No, all of a sudden it was under Joel Klein at the time, and they got a consultant, and the consultant said, here's how you cut corners. Don't send out half-empty buses. Wait until everybody's registration is perfect and everything. And, so they were starting new every September and then having to reshuffle these routes over and over again as more students who they could have anticipated were going to be there eventually. For instance, you're at a school, the school has a class of 15, a class of 12, they have an ICT class, and there's going to be a certain proportion of those students who definitely need the bus. Whatever number of buses they needed last June is basically the number that they can expect to need in September, but they no longer start out with that number as of around 2004, 2005. They also no longer, and I have paperwork on this, the previous CEO, Eric Goldstein, commissioned some IT people. They did a study and said that we're not going to route to the school. It's not, it's not like other districts where they say PS9 needs 5 buses, PS10 needs 2 buses, whatever. It's some other kind of hybrid thing with a map that lays over the routes and then the region, the area. It's to the convenience, in their own words, of the profitability for the vendor, so that the vendor will then bid on it and give them a low bid or something like that. But it's still what we found in 2012 to 13, the leadership of the administration again took their cue from these vendors who wanted to trim off the labor cost. So they removed employee protection provisions from a big chunk of the routes when they had the bidding going on. And there was a strike. It was 10 years ago this month. And even so, a bunch of people got laid off. People with wheelchair experience got laid off. In other words, operating the vehicles and strapping in the children safely just really kicked to the curb. New companies that hadn't worked in the city before all of a sudden got these 1,100 routes, and it then had a domino effect in driving down the attractiveness of the position, which is a very hard wake up at 4 a.m. type, strain, but can also be very rewarding if you're a person who loves kids and, anyway, we're still fighting along with others for some respect for that workforce so that they can be retained and increased, but the opposite has happened. There's been, we've been hundreds and hundreds short of these safety professionals year after year, pre-COVID. And then naturally, some people probably that was the last straw, or the fact that they all got laid off in the spring of 2020 was the last straw for some other people. But mostly what we hear from the workers is that it's the new hires who don't get the kind of package that, some people are still doing better. These new employees are less incentivized to really stick with it and stick it out. So we're having doubled up routes, because if you have, 8 drivers to do the work of 12 drivers, it eventually causes a lot of kids to get to school late or the bus not to show up. And, the Department of Education or public schools now, they're scrambling to come up with different kinds of ride shares and reimbursements, but it's really not the same. And it doesn't address the environmental factor. It doesn't address the stability for students who can't deal with so many transitions. And it's really, really rough, which Lupe, I think, can speak to better on the students in temporary housing and the kind of weight that they and their families have, not just for the bus, but even for the Metro cards sometimes. So I'll pause.
Thank you, Sarah. I'll punt to Lupe if you want to give information on what you just referred to, student and temporary housing.
Absolutely. I just want to also kind of uplift what Sarah was speaking into regards to our labor shortage, because I think we're all aware there is a national labor shortage across the nation. But with
I'm
busing,
here to pick up.
it
What's your name? Cheryl.
It has
Last name is Wu, W.
Exacerbated since the pandemic, right? This labor shortage, we were in need of these drivers and bus attendants and bus paras prior to the pandemic, and it just only got worse. So when we talk about EPP, it's sustainability with the new incoming. We want incentivizing recruitment, and I think sustainability is the key word there, where we can really build up that workforce that will serve our students. We know that 150,000 students in the DOE citywide are eligible for busing, but we also know that our not only our students with disability, but our students in temporary housing, I think, suffer the most in not having routes. And so to put that in perspective, we know, I think last time I got numbers from OPT, it was about at least 600 students in temporary housing currently still do not have routes. There is a plethora of reasoning behind that I really equate to a lack of communications between agencies. So we're having, OPT having to work within the DOE system, and DHS is able to work directly with the DOE in enrolling our students and getting them on the data match to get them a route with OPT a lot quicker than our HERC shelters that are run by health and hospitals. So we're seeing a disconnect in that. I am also aware that the routes for families are difficult because we have a lot of students, particularly staying and living in District 2, but are going to school in Districts 3, 4, and 5, as well as 1. So, and routes for these students are currently non-existent. And to further the challenges for these families, Metro cards are at a complete abysmal scarcity from our students in temporary housing regional directors that are servicing the school, student and temporary housing coordinators, liaisons, every one of these people that are supposed to be in charge of dispersing these Metro cards to get not only the students, but parents are also eligible to get their children to and from school. They're eligible for those Metro cards. However, most families are not aware of this. And the reason why they're not promoting it is because they don't have enough. They're not getting enough. And everyone is aware of it. DOE is aware of it. OPT is aware of it. MTA is aware of it. But again, I think there needs to be better communication between all the different agencies that are accountable for to be able to get our kids to school. We've seen many ACS cases go up for families because of busing. They're not getting to school because a student cannot get on a bus if a bus para is sick that day or the driver's gone. They don't always have time to double and triple up a route that's already doubled or tripled as is for the regular school year. So if a bus driver calls out, or if a busing para calls out, there's 0 subs and kids just don't get to school. We have families that have missed school for weeks and then have to deal with the trauma of dealing with an ACS case because of chronic absenteeism due to something that out of their control. Not all parents and families can afford to get their kids via rideshare or front the costs that would be reimbursed, or they have to get to work. So we also have parents that have lost jobs essentially because they've had waiting for the school bus only to find out that the bus is not showing up again. Now they have to get their child to school and get to work late. And after months and months and months of this happening, many, many, many parents have lost their jobs or have had to, it's caused a lot of stress. Parents are sick. Ill. We've had family members really ill that are unfortunately just due to the stress of having to figure out how to get their kids to school. So we passed a resolution in Community Education Council for District 2. It has been circulating and passed in District 4. It's passed at the district leadership parent council, president's council for Title I in District 8 out of the Bronx. And I believe Patricia shared in the chat with you all a letter from the Community Board 4. There's actually an updated letter that maybe Sarah, if you can, I don't know if that includes the letter that they wrote in December, asking for the comptroller and the mayor to audit OPT, because we know that the big issues of routing, shortage, has to do with, and the amount of money that is going towards these bus companies in these biddings, the bids that Sarah was describing earlier. And we've seen in the history where 10 years ago there was a strike, and that very well could happen again. We want to make sure that, again, sustainability is being addressed, because millions of dollars are being poured into these contracts and services are not being rendered. And even for the children, I will say this, for the kids that actually have a route, because we've spoken a lot about the problems, but for the kids that do have a route, that do get picked up, that are on 2-hour, 3-hour bus rides, are getting to school at 9, 10 o'clock every single day. And so they're missing out on not only academics, but they're missing out on related services like speech, counseling, PT, OT, therapies that is very hard to make up. And a lot of these students are ineligible for the special education recovery services because our busing cannot get them home after any after school programming. So they are also excluded from a lot of those programs. And these are the students that actually are funded and that they need these services the most. Some of this COVID relief funds were put in place to serve these exact students, yet they are not able to participate because OPT is unable to get them transportation home from any of these programs that is actually created for them.
What's OPT stand for?
Office of Pupil Transportation, and my apologies for that. And just a heads up, I'm new to the Public Advocate's office, and just everything I said prior was from me as a parent working with parents to improve school transportation, and know that but the Public Advocate's office does lend their support to both PIS NYC as well as the community board, and to definitely let us know how they may be assistance in moving forward. But my comments tonight are representative of myself. So.
Thank you, Lupe. Thank you, Sarah. We usually take questions from our committee members first and then the attendees. So does our committee have any questions for our guest speakers? No. Oh, go ahead, Keen.
Yeah, just overall, how many children are bused to school in general? How many children are, give me some numbers. Sometimes children are bused, okay? And then what's the average time the kid spends on a bus, or give me the whole scope.
So
Okay.
I'll take a stab at that. It's definitely in the 150,000 range. So about 15, a little less than 15% of all New York City school children. In the case of students with disabilities, though, there are also some early intervention children, babies who have to get to programs sometimes by busing. There are also students who are eligible until they're 21 to continue to go to school. So it's a wider range than just sort of that pre-K through 12 or even 3K through 12. And then that's about, what are they saying now? It changed since we first started doing this. I think at least a third, 40+% are students who are there on that bus because it's in their individualized education program, which, as you know, is a contract with the state for services, and transportation under state laws is a related service, as well as being an educational service for everyone. So another majority have what we call general education routes. And some students also are covered for their busing under the 504 civil rights law instead. For example, some students who only have diabetes, that doesn't call for an IEP, but you might need to have certain protections if you go on a school trip, somebody there who's trained to administer glucagon in case of a crisis, things like that. So those were the first set of numbers. The length of the trip, it can vary, but what I could show you and was about to show you was what the current policy considers an acceptable route length. So I can either pull that up, except that whenever I do this, I'm losing the Zoom place to do screen share, but I'm gonna try.
And while you're pulling that up, Sarah, I just want to address, Keen, your other question regarding delays and such. So I will put in the chat a resolution that does show some of that data, but I will warn you, we have addressed to OPT that the numbers that they are reflecting is inaccurate, because a bus can be late for one student several days throughout the month, and it's one ticket complaint and not reflected of the amount of times or days that bus was actually late. So when it's resolved for all 30 days that it was late, as opposed to really reflecting the true amount of delays. And they do have a daily, but it erases that. We've asked for a long, we've asked for this edulog is what they call it. And but it just, you can check it daily to see what the daily delays are, but we cannot find that in fixed space, but we've asked for it. So maybe you guys can as well. And you may have better luck than we will.
Thank you. Thank you.
So this is what I wanted you to see, that they have said that if the child lives in Manhattan and goes to school in Manhattan, up to 4 years old, it's fine for them to be on that bus for 75 minutes, an hour and 15, potty trained or not. And if it's out of borough, it's even longer. And once you hit kindergarten, as I said, you're a big kid now. You're up there with everybody, through middle school and high school. 90 minutes is okay in their eyes, and out of borough, it could be 115, which is just under 2 hours. Another issue that we have is communication. These questions are word of mouth from parent to parent a lot of times. And they used to send home a route letter. They don't send that home anymore. Parents have to go on the My Schools or the Nixa account, and there are a lot of glitches and obstacles to getting on there and, staying on there. Connectivity, having a phone with data, just everything aside from it's a bureaucracy. And the students who are in a non-public school have only recently gotten some access. People who are starting kindergarten, if your child's starting kindergarten, you're trying to figure out what their bus is, you can't just log on because they haven't gotten a code yet from the school that they won't get until they've been in school like a week. So it's always hashtag where's my bus? We've been doing these tip sheets for people for years, and things just keep changing. And once you get used to one way, it changes again. And it's not even useful as a handout because there's these long links. But anyway, I put in the chat the shortest link for this in English and Spanish. And you can see, as Lupe said, the advocate has been, making themselves available to elevate some of these and collect some of this data, but they're not trying to get people's confidential info. They just want to know the borough, the company, and what's going on. If you do talk to the city council, they had hearings about this recently, and the Education Chair Rita Joseph said she's tired of getting calls from parents, you know, and then the Oversight Committee, Gail Brewer, also was backing up this issue. And we can send you the link to that if you need to see it, but it was pretty much the council members grilling the representatives from Office of Pupil Transportation, and then a lot of school staff, parents, lawyers, people getting on and explaining some of these horrific stories that have happened just in this, you know, most recent fall and winter. There are committees for students in District 75 who are dealing with busing. They meet every month. We work closely with them. Students in any kind of special education, even if it's not public, represented by the Citywide Council for Special Education, and we work with them as well. And they're fighting now for more protections for students in foster care as well, because, you know, you may change households and want to stay in your same school, and that's your right, as it is for students who are displaced due to housing. But it's not really happening smoothly at all. And it was a big fight even to get it for the students with temporary housing. That's happened under de Blasio. Yeah.
Thank you, Sarah. I also wanted to share my screen because I had sent some questions ahead of our meeting to the Office of Pupil Transportation at the DOE, and I'm gonna share those questions. Let's see. Can you see the?
Yes.
Can someone give me a thumbs up? You can see it? Okay. Here are some of the questions we sent ahead of this meeting. Does the DOE own its own bus line? Because we were thinking maybe, and they said no, the DOE does not own its own bus line. However, a not-for-profit established by the city, NICES, I think that's what they call it, does approximately 800 routes citywide. I'll just go over what we sent ahead, and if anybody wants to say something after. How does the DOE vet contracted bus companies? DOE utilizes standard procurement policies and procedures to vet bus companies. In addition, bus companies are continuously monitored to ensure they are in compliance with contractual terms and conditions. For whom does the DOE provide bus service? And they say 150,000 students, which you went over previously. How does one establish a bus route? One, it's established, a student qualifies for yellow busing. The team at OPT works to place students onto routes. What is the DOE doing to address staff shortages, drivers, matrons, paraprofessionals? We're working with our contracted bus companies on strategies to address staff shortages. These strategies include job fairs, hiring bonuses, paid for driver certification and referral bonuses. Our partners in the special education office are doing similar work with regard to paraprofessional hiring, as paraprofessionals are school-based positions. What is the process of getting a Metro card for transportation if denied a bus route? The transportation coordinator at your school can facilitate receipt of a Metro card. How can parents, caregivers receive Metro card to accompany their children to and from school? In general, parents are not eligible for Metro cards. However, parents of students in temporary housings are eligible. The transportation coordinator at your school can facilitate receipt of Metro cards. Many students participate in weekend programs. Does the DOE provide weekend Metro cards? And they said yes. And I'll stop sharing. So that was their answer. Oh, all right, I have a question from a committee member, Mara Fitzgerald. Go ahead.
So, yeah, when we received these, it was really clear these were non-answers. I mean, I am certainly not, you know, super well versed on bus stuff, but it was clear to me these were very political answers that didn't give us any information. I felt like I knew even more than this. And I would like to hear those questions answered by you experts, by Lupe and Sarah, because I know you'll give us the real deal. So can we do that? Can we put them back up so we can get actual answers to these questions?
Sure, I'll share them again.
I'm gonna unmute, but I would love for Lupe to tackle that word transportation coordinator. Which
Yes.
is a little bit down the road there.
I mean, and again, it's interesting because I wanted to say again, the labor shortage is the big issue. And NICE bus, NYCSBUS, it's acronym for New York City School Bus Umbrella Services. It is the first since in the past 20 years where DOE has kind of full authority oversight. There's some accountability within this bus company, and they have worked with us, parents, advocates, and the stakeholders, the community members, to ask what some key issues are, especially regarding communications that Sarah brought up earlier. And they are collaborating with us and actually created a video for the winter pick. Winter pick is 6 months into a already disrupted bus school year, meaning you have families that haven't even been put on a route in October, November. They're finally getting their bus routes. And then in January, at the end of January, the drivers get seniority pick to pick a new route. So everything changes. And for our students with disability and kids on the autism spectrum, this can be really disrupted to an already disruptive situation. But they listened, and they worked with us and created this video and social stories, and they're doing their part. The OPT vendor side, they are profits over quality of services, and you're competing with MTA, and I've heard that. OPT has said they've trained, they have 30 new bus drivers, and then they lose, and they're down to 6 because the MTA kind of poaches from them. So we've talked about even some solutions in creating some legislation or something to say, hey, you have to work with the school bus company for this many years before we can even graduate you to a better, it's definitely, we also said working wages, but the labor force in general with OPT is abysmal with our drivers. But then when they put a lot of the answers to these questions on the schools itself, the transportation coordinator or liaison, it's not a job that lives within the school that is paid separate from the school aide, the parent coordinator, the principal, the assistant principal, the nurse. No, typically this job is taken on by one of those people I just mentioned. In schools where you have schools that don't have a parent coordinator. So if they don't have the parent coordinator, now you have the school aide probably doing parent coordinator work and transportation work. So this is not a position that it should be its own, because the amount of work that is entailed in enrolling students and reporting delays and reporting no-shows and expressing we don't have enough Metro cards, that is a job in itself. But unfortunately, that job is put on to staff members in our school's administration that are already overwhelmed and overworked and under-resourced. So to put that into perspective, there's not a single school that has their own transportation liaison or coordinator that just does that job. Doesn't exist. And the people that are doing the work are doing the best that they can on top of the work that they already get paid for. So it's a non-starter, and we've brought that up to them. It's not fair to the schools, to the community of the school, to take on that burden. It's a lot of work. Also, students in temporary housing. I forgot to mention that when our shelters closed down last year, we lost about 3,500 students in Community Education Council District 2, which is part of Community Board 2. 3 family shelters closed down during Omicron holiday break of December of 2021 going into 22. They were not aware, and that's typically how it happens, where you get a half an hour to pack up your belongings. They get on a bus, and they were bused to either the Bronx or Queens to a new family shelter without zero transportation prepared for them to get back to school once the break was finished in January of 2022. And that's, again, a lack of communication between DHS and OPT. And it seems so simple sometimes, but you would think if DHS knows that a shelter is closing and you have this many students that are going to a school that's near that current shelter, the last thing we want to do is be more disruptive. These children need the most stability that they can get. And if they've already created relationships with their counselors at their schools, with community members, you can only imagine how uplifting and uprooting them from where they live, from where they're staying, to now where they felt maybe where they were getting their only services. Now they have to go somewhere else, somewhere new. So I just wanted to uplift that because that was not brought up earlier, but it's an issue that they're aware of, and I've brought up.
I have a question, Lupe. I was querying our local schools, PS3 and 75 Morton, and we have 3 schools on PS 130 downtown Chinatown. We've seen an influx of migrant students into these schools. 75 Morton alone has 122 students. And because that's a middle school, I was told that they just hand them a Metro card. That's how they solve that problem. And there's a language issue as well. So.
And not all families are getting Metro cards for the parents to get their child to school. So you expect a young, to get on, to navigate our subway system. And they're not, we've gotten so many students, they're not so close, So I would love for Sarah to kind of speak on this as well, because she she definitely can speak on that regard, but we've said language, not only that they're not, that is an issue in itself, the language barrier. And so when parents don't even know that they're eligible for that Metro card to escort their child to and from school, and nobody's promoting that. And the reason why they're not promoting it is because they're very limited in supplies, and it's not that easy for them to get them, is what I'm being told from principals to parent coordinators to our transportation coordinators that may be a school aide or a secretary as well. So
yeah, that title doesn't exist at the school.
It doesn't. Not on it.
Those were my questions. Are any other committee members have questions?
Can I just clarify a little thing that was just the exchange that just happened, and I'm glad that came up because, as you said, it's a middle school, and they'll only get, the parent will only get this Metro card theoretically for a 6th grader. After 6th grade, the kid is on their own. And as you said, just because you're that age, you might know your way around in your home country, but you don't know your way around. These subways are confusing and things like that. So nowhere have I heard of thought being given, to how to enhance that support and have a wider safety net for that situation. And it really is true. We met a lot of the parents at an event, and I put in the chat a link to a bilingual website post we have, which we also print out as a flyer, about school transportation from temporary housing. So it touches on the bus and it touches on the Metro card, but these parents that we were meeting, they were going in their own pocket to get the kid on the subway, or somebody was giving them like a double, a 2 ride or a 1 ride instead of giving them a weekly or a monthly. So the information's not getting out. And I think it's sort of unacceptable what Lupe's being told, that they don't have Metro cards, because if they're switching to Omni, they should have a bunch of leftover Metro cards. They should have a stack that they can remagnetize and reload or whatever. It's already, well, sorry, I don't want to take up too much time, but I see that it's 7:20, so.
Thank you, Sarah. I'm looking to the attendees. Is there any question to our guest speakers before we move to business session? Because we have a resolution to improve pupil transportation that I want to go over with our committee. I don't see any questions, so I'm gonna.
Did we, Mar, you had asked, and then we didn't go point by point, but
No,
it was definitely vague.
Yeah, I just wanted to point out how very vague it was. And, you know, that speaks to the difficulty of parents and caregivers seeking, you know, getting answers to these questions and securing, I mean, even just the route beyond, you know, buses just not showing up. I've experienced that a million times. Paras not being available, the worker shortages, the air conditioning on the bus. I mean, everything. Even before that, let's get the bus route. And it's like the biggest secret.
Yes.
In education, how to get a bus route. I will tell you personally, when my daughter started at PS 41, now a million years ago, I went in and I said, do we have a bus? And no, we just don't have buses. Everybody who goes to this school is zoned, so they are too close to have a bus. So I did what I do. I looked up the research. I realized that, you know, below 3rd grade, she was eligible. The threshold is 0.5 miles. We live 0.6 miles, if I use the right address of my building, which has 4 doors. And I was able to establish a bus route, but I did it all by myself. The school transportation person is also the lunch person, is also like doing 10 other jobs, like you said. And so when I did it, I gathered families in the area. I went out with my phone. I took pictures of every possible place where a bus could stop and drop off. And I packaged it. I called OPT. It took me an hour and a half on the phone. They would not tell me, refused to tell me how many children, how many students one needed to establish a bus route. They would not tell me. It was 12 at the time. They would not tell me until I threatened to call my electeds. But it took an hour and a half. Finally, I got the number 12. I gathered a bunch of families. I had 12 kids. And then I went into our lunch person's, and she's the lunch person, office. And I sat down with her while she put every single name into the system. And then I followed up until we established a route. But it was impossible. And then they took it away. And we're gone. And I'm getting calls from parents like, didn't you have a bus route? And I'm like, here's what you do. But the information's a secret and they should be sharing it. And, you know, and that's the simplest part, getting the buses, and then getting the buses right is a whole next level. So, yeah, let's look at the resolution if they're not.
Right, then I guess we're going to transition to business session, but I wanted to thank our guest speakers, Sarah Catalante. Did I mess your name up? I'm sorry. And Lupe for coming tonight. Thank you. You don't have to stick around. You could, but you won't be able to chime in.
Actually, before you go, can we ask, is there anything in the draft the resolutions that you shared with us that you feel needs to be updated or should be included? I was taking notes but I pretty much think everything has been covered.
Do you want me to share it on my screen? All right, hold on.
I mean, I just dropped the link again.
But I can, let me.
Yeah, I saved it, but I didn't
Like,
get a
should we
chance to
speak
read it.
specifically to the students who live outside the districts of the schools they attend? I mean, I just feel like there should be so much more done. And I want to highlight and uplift every one of these needs, but the basics aren't even being met. So rather than muddy the waters, we just keep things really focused on basics, I guess. Yeah.
So our school bus bill of rights, the way that we are going to working to get this on a ballot initiative for a referendum that people can sign, is distilled from sort of 9 topics and then encompassed by saying that the governance of it needs to change, because what you have now is really like IT people and, you know, people with executive skills and things like that, but you don't have the stakeholders, you don't have parents, you don't have the workers. Like somebody who's been driving a bus in Staten Island, they should now be the router in Staten Island because they know every street on that island, instead of somebody who they hired based on a resume. Anyway, so we're trying to create a sort of labor community panel that can have some policy decision-making power. Expanding Nice Bus is a great start, because when you remove that profit factor, you know, we have their ear, and the money can go towards quality instead of a golf course or whatever else the vendor wants to invest in. That's good.
Okay. The therefore be resolves are A through F. Well, no, A through, oh, ooh, there's a lot. It's a lot.
Mm.
I'm going to go over that in business session with our committee. It's basically I guess CEC Reso with the Manhattan Community Board 4 Reso combined that we took the language from and what you shared with us. Okay.
Thank you for having us. We appreciate you guys acknowledging this issue, and we look forward to even bringing the bus bill rights to you guys as well when it's ready.
Thank you. Thanks for coming.
Okay, yes, please keep in touch, and, you know, including if you have a bus problem, but hopefully not, but also let us know what you end up doing.
Okay, thank you, Sarah.
Okay.
Good night.
Great night. Bye-bye.
All right, committee. So we've shared the resolution in the chat, and I have it as a screen share as before you. So we have a lot in the therefore, they're like A through M, sorry. So we're asking the DOE to prioritize the NICE bus from the current 950 bus routes in order to service more than 150,000 students. Urge DOE to prioritize expanding quality bus service. Ask the attendance to be collected on the number of students unserved due to busing deficiencies. Ask OPT, Office of Pupil Transportation, to take initiative to prioritize students who require a specialized learning classroom environment for fewer students on route accommodations. Demand a more strident oversight of Office of Pupil Transportation practices, including but not limited to a reporting system of when sites visits to bus companies are done. Asked that the pilot program for the recruitment, training, and nomination of sub-paras strictly for the use of servicing students in needs of bus paras be created under the supervision of District 75 Superintendent. I'm just going over this loosely. Demand to improve training for the drivers. Demand more transparent and accessible complaint system for families and schools to report instances of no pickup, maintenance issues, missing children, safety concerns. Acknowledge and study deficiencies that occur during summarizing. Maximize climate control on vehicles, shorten the maximum route duration times and create routes that adhere to them. Proactively inform families through backpack mail, busing rights, school-based transportation. Demand the creation of school transportation oversight committee made up of parents, paras, DOE representatives of each sector that is tasked with implementing OPT policies and troubleshooting, i.e. transportation coordinators, routers, principals to mitigate, mediate all concerns related to the functions of OPT. And that is the therefore be it resolved for this resolution. Are there any comments from my committee?
I would like to ask, sorry.
Yes, Key, go ahead.
The shortage of Metro cards seems to be another issue, and I don't see that in the resolution. I mean, it should be.
Therefore be it resolved.
Is it there? Here.
Did I cover it? Let me. All right, I guess I have to put that in. I don't think it's not right up front. I guess I should put it up front about the Metro cards.
I mean, that seems shocking. It seems to make more. I don't know why they're short.
It's funding. It's the funding. I think I talked to someone in the community board for where they have more students in temporary housing, and they said that there's not enough funding the money has run out, and they're looking to their elected officials to find that money to supplement it.
You have to print them. I mean, they're not expensive to print, are they?
But it's funding. So
the money.
It's the money that's on I think.
There's no money on them. They're free. I mean, I don't understand why.
Metro cards are not free. You have to put money on them.
Well, so, the kids don't have to put money on theirs, but the parents would, like the parents in temporal. Actually, no, that's not the way they work. They get 3 rides a day. Is that right, Regan?
Yes.
3 rides a day.
My grandsons have them. I know them. They're free. It doesn't cost anybody anything. They just slice it through and the thing opens.
Yeah, it's got to have a balance on it, right?
No, there's no money.
It's 3 rides a day.
3 rides a day.
Oh, it's just credited for 3 rides. Okay.
Yeah, per day.
So there's no money on it. And I see a lot of people, adults sneaking on buses and subways. I mean, if they really wanted to get money, there would be a better way. But the Metro cards should be, they're free. You just have to print them.
I mean, I agree with Keen. Honestly, I have always said, I think that all parents and caregivers and anybody who has to ferry children to and from school should also get a Metro card. I mean,
and the fact that the reason they don't is that they don't have enough.
Oh yeah, and the hours. But that was something I put in already, right, Patricia? Didn't I say it was till 10 p.m. and I added and weekends. Hold on.
It's in the whereas. It's not in the therefore be it resolved.
I know I wrote it out. Every day of the week and weekends. So it was in the whereas, but it's not in the verb.
So I don't think it should be in the resolution.
Let's see what this one says.
An obvious and relatively easy thing to do.
So the rule is that they can use Metro cards to and from school and school-related activities up to 4 times a day. It's only 3.
It's 3 times a day. 3.
Yeah, it's not 4.
And that's between the hours of 5:30 a.m. and 10 p.m. every day of the week. And actually, when I added weekends, I think I didn't realize that was a whereas. And, oh no, that's what they wanted expanded to. No, we want to expand it, but to how much? Can we ask Lupe?
Is she still here?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I'm not even convinced about the weekends. Just make enough of them. I mean, that's
Well,
just,
the fact is they do give weekend Metro cards, and there are a lot of kids that participate in weekend school activities. And honestly, particularly students with IEPs and 504s.
right. But I'm just telling you that the obvious deficiency is if they're eligible, but they can't get them because there are not enough of them. That is wrong and crazy. So that's
Okay,
So
understood.
let's take that out because I added it as a whereas and add it to another be it resolved. Drivers, this is all bus. Okay, I think I'm going to make that the new M.
And we have to add the thing about the Metro cards.
That's what I'm doing now. Be it finally, be it. Be it resolved that CB2, what, advises? Or are we demanding again?
I guess demand.
We're very demanding. Demands that every shoot for the moon, every student, I don't know, I'm writing,
Slash caregiver.
is that asking for too much? Oh, Lupe
Well, we
saying
can tweak
that,
it. I mean,
that they should just be monthly unlimited Metro cards. Doesn't that sound reasonable?
that sounds reasonable.
That makes totally, forget that. Duh, thank you, Lupe, for bringing our brain. Demands that every student and caregiver, I don't know if we can do that. Let's start with student.
All right.
Student has access to, yeah, monthly each student. No, every student is better. Access to a month. There you go.
All right. Thank you.
but it's again, it's you're not focusing on what I'm thinking, which is that they should get more Metro cards. I mean, that there is no reason to have an insufficient number.
Yes.
Is that understood?
I
mean, some of this stuff is, this would be nice if, this would be nice if, this would be nice if, but some of it is, guys, don't be so stupid as to make this a problem, because you could solve it if you just focus on it. That's insufficient numbers of Metro cards. Just seems to me a wrong reason not to have them. Just make more.
Carter's asking if there's an issue with Metro cards because it falls under the MTA and the state and not the city. And I'm sure that for whatever reason, the state is, holding back providing these cards. I've personally never had this issue at my kids' current school. But I'm sure that it's an issue at larger schools too. Like, there's schools that have, 1,500, 2,000 students. And I can't imagine kids lose things every day. So it might be hard. And then they have to order them from the MTA, or does the DOE? I think we don't know enough about the details of this, Keen. And
we can follow up with OPT. They told me that I can follow up with some questions. So we can ask them before we submit the resolution about this.
But I do think that the as suggested by Lupe, that every student should have a monthly unlimited Metro card. That's what makes sense. If they're not paying for them, if it's no money, I mean, I don't know how they offset the swipes, but there's no reason every student doesn't have those through high school, in my opinion. So ultimately, isn't that it, Keen?
Well, except, I mean, every student who can't walk to school, every eligible student, which is what you said.
Yeah.
Because the real worry is that a student gets a free card and gives it to somebody else who goes.
That's a real concern. Yeah.
I don't know that that's a real concern. Like if they give it to their parent,
Well, how about they give it, they sell it on the street. You want a
Yeah.
free Metro card? Give me $10.
Yeah.
A
So,
good way. Good
I think-
hustle.
But
we should look at the data on
Lupe
that.
said, what about students that work?
Yeah, we should look at the data on that, right? Like I was talking to somebody from NJ Transit and they said that this is apparently all the people are like, well, what if the low income people sell those cards? But it's just like, what is the data on that? And he said they actually looked, it's like less than 3% or something like that. You know what I mean? Like before we say that's going to be an issue, I think we should look at the numbers, if there are any, right?
And also, you know what? There are countries where public transportation is free for everybody, and it should be here. So I don't think it's a big ask to say every student should get an unlimited Metro card. Like nobody should have to pay for public transportation anyway.
Well, you're going outside the realm of this.
Anarchy.
resolution.
Anarchy.
Have any idea how
I
much
think
it
there should be
costs?
free
You know how many
healthcare.
people ride it?
Public transportation should be a public good, just like healthcare and education, but
Thank you. It
that's
should
what
be.
we're having
It
this
would be a
discussion.
right. But regardless of all that, I still stick to every New York City public school student should have an unlimited Metro card so that they can do whatever it is they need to do. If they need to go to classes, for instance, my daughter she has acting class, she has music class, she has guitar, she has classes every night of the week, and they're not always very close to our home, which means we're paying for transportation when she's coming home after 6, after 7, late at night, because I think her card ends. What time does your card end? 7? 8. So if we're out later than that, or if a high school student who's coming home from work right after school, they're paying every day. And that's just my opinion. That just because we're afraid they might sell their Metro card, people are not going to do that. If you get an unlimited Metro card, you're going to use it. I don't think the instances of,
I think Cheryl's got a good point. We need some data, but my point is if they already go through the system and they are eligible, but they don't have it because there are not enough cards. That's what we just heard.
But every student is eligible. Every student.
And not right now. You have to live a certain distance.
Yeah, you have to have a certain amount of miles away from the school.
Yeah, so point M is then not correct.
No, it's for middle school. It's what, 1 mile?
But
I think you have to be a mile away from your school.
I'm not quarreling. I mean, I actually, I do want free public transportation for everybody. But if in fact, by the current rules, somebody is eligible for a Metro card, but cannot get one because there aren't enough of them, that is ridiculous.
Right.
Okay.
That's not a change of the law. That's just somebody needs to push a button somewhere. You understand?
Should I? Is Sarah going to answer a question that we have? Should I take it?
All right. Hold on.
You go ahead, Sarah.
No, I have all this, Lupe. I'm looking at it right now.
Look, Darlene put some stuff in the chat that.
I'm going to stop sharing because I can't see the chat. Is that okay, everyone?
But I don't think we can agree to point M there.
Hold on. I'm looking to see what the rules are.
My point in the chat, but I guess nobody saw it, was that one way around that, which is a slogan being used, extend the hours of student Metro, hours and days of student Metro cards. We had someone testify at our meeting Saturday that kids weren't getting they were supposed to get them Tuesday when they came back from Regents Week, and schools weren't, some still didn't even have it by Friday, and kids get arrested for going, you know, over the turnstile, and that follows them. So
you're confusing. I'm not following. You cited a case where you said they should be extended, the time limit.
You're right. It's the lack
you
of the
made a point
Metro
that-
card is a big danger, but when they do have the Metro card, the term that covers, I think, maybe the things that are folks are unsure of about the rules is to extend, you know, it's a Metro card extension.
Yeah, I see. Yeah.
Mhm.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, so thank you, Mark, for putting up the eligibility. That's exactly what I was looking at. Honestly, every kid is eligible except for people that live within 0.5 miles of a school. So if you live within 10 blocks of school, you can't get a Metro card. Everybody else is eligible for either a Metro card and or bus. So if everybody who lives more than half a mile from their school, which is most people in New York City, why wouldn't we say everybody who is eligible? In fact, be more specific. Yeah. Everybody who lives more than 0.5, half a mile from school should be able to get an unlimited Metro card.
There's two, you've combined multiple things there. First off, point M should say those who are eligible. But then, so that's fine. Everybody who's eligible should be able to get one. Yes, we agree. As to whether or not it should be, you know, with no limits, I think that's another point. That's another debate.
Every student living more than 0.5 miles.
Which is the rule, yeah.
School.
Yeah, that's it. That's point M, yeah. From their school, yeah. But I don't know if it's, I don't know if it should be unlimited.
Let's see. Shouldn't it be unlimited for school days at least? But that's the other thing, like the weekends aren't covered. You know, as a parent, I can tell you that often on weekends, there are special events that we're supposed to go to for school. It might be a band thing. It might be a museum visit that's required by a science class or a history class. There are tons of weekend obligations that these kids have. And why should families be paying for that? These things that these kids are going to be graded on. They're public schools.
Yeah, there's sports meets on the weekends.
Oh yeah, the sports every weekend. So, I mean, I don't know. I feel like we shoot for the moon. We ask for unlimited for these students that are eligible.
I mean, we can write those reasons down. We can say monthly unlimited Metro card, and then maybe in parentheses, you know, to
include the reasons.
Yeah, inclusive of weekends due to frequent school events on Saturday and Sunday, comma, e.g. sports meets, activities, academic activities, which they do.
Write it somehow.
Yeah. That may occur on the weekend or something like that.
Actually, we'll say after school. Oh, there's after school too. After
Go ahead,
school.
Carter, please. Carter, go ahead.
Yes, there's another interesting issue that really dovetails into this, which is Darlene pointed out in the chat, is the Omni system is the last segment that they're rolling out is for kids. And the reason is because it's the most complicated, because kids lose their Metro cards, they the attachment to other things, their phones die, etc. And that might be an area that you might want to inquire about and being ahead of it, of having somebody come to speak about it. I don't know if Mark is still on, but I think when we had a presentation at Borough Board at some point back, I don't know if that's while Mark was chair, about the Omni system and the rollout of it. And it was very interesting because almost all the questions that came up were around kids using Omni. Not, it was very easy for adults to be responsible, but it ties into this, and also to some of the questions about misuse as well, because it can be tied to other devices and not just a card. So there's a lot that's there, I think, that's relevant to this conversation that will be coming along, and being ahead of it now, just as you guys are talking, seems to really, tie into this conversation, to give even better input to whoever's running the program.
Thanks, Carter. Just clarify for me, you said the Omni system, when I use it, it is ties to a debit card, right?
That's the gentleman who came and spoke about it. It's tied to whatever you want to tie it to. The way we think of this is that, a card has physical value, or that phones have physical value on them. They don't. They're tied to a big database, and anything can link to that database, and you have a certain amount of credit wherever that database is that's then deducted. So that's what's a little confusing, and that's why I think with kids it's very challenging, because what is that going to be linked to? Okay. But you're right. You're exactly right. And that's when you're on your phone, it's a debit card versus a Metro card. But I think that it's not so complicated for people running the system, but it's complicated for us as the public to kind of wrap our heads around how it's all connected together. But kids are the most challenging aspect of this. And that is why they were hesitant to diverge from the actual Metro cards, something physical in their hand that never runs out of power, that you're not supposed to lose, etc.
Right. Okay. Understood. Go ahead, Mark.
Thanks. Just to follow on what Carter was offering, I'm not sure if I was present for that discussion, but one of the things I believe is that it's only recently that we have the introduction of something called an Omni card, which is different than a Metro card and is sort of a gap filler, because eventually Metro cards will be phased out, and at this point it's not that far away. So the Omni card would again be a repository of value, much like those cards that you put into the laundromat in coin-op laundromats and so forth, and they do have value on them. And Carter's exactly right. Trying to get that concept to work on a debit card that doesn't have a debit, doesn't have a value, but rather works off of times of day and days of week, which is how the student Metro card system works now. Is the trick. I have a close connection to somebody who's on the MTA board, and I can ask these questions of that person if that would be helpful to your research.
Please, yes, because we
Okay.
don't have anybody that came to talk about it. Yeah, that would be helpful, Mark. Thank you.
All right, I'll get on that.
So it's 7:53. I guess we'll have to circulate the reso before we can get a vote. Are there any last comments from our committee members before I adjourn the meeting?
One more thing.
Yes, Rich.
I'm sorry to interrupt. I should have put my hand up.
Go ahead, Rich. I see you.
Can I just see that?
You want to see it again?
Yeah, the resolution, just the very first line, we said, I think they said there were the number of routes there.
You mean the whereas, where?
Yeah, the whereas, it's, or maybe it was the, yeah, go up, just keep going. We said, oh, right there, A, I'm sorry, therefore be it resolved. Implores the DO to prioritize expanding from the current 950 to service the 150. Okay. So we're not saying, we're not saying go from 950 to 1200. We don't know. We're just saying you've got to be able to have the right number of bus routes to service the 150,000 students. Okay.
Should we say to service all of the 150,000 rather than more of the 150,000?
But I think it's all of them within the constraints of, you know, not having to go 75 minutes and all those things, right?
Yeah.
I mean, 75 minutes seems long.
That's
I would
very long.
get sick. I would get sick on a bus after something. And I, especially if not potty trained.
All right. I mean, we're tweaking some other resolutions that have been passed at other boards. Oh, Mark, go ahead.
Yeah.
So
Good.
Lupe just shared with me a separate resolution on expanding MetroCard access. And so maybe that's
You mean a separate res? A different
a
one?
separate reso
Oh, that just speaks totally to that.
yeah. And I
Yeah.
wonder, maybe it's a second short reso that we do on just
Yeah.
MetroCards.
I would vote for that. That would be, I think that would be really clean, actually.
Okay.
Yeah, they can be like a little package deal.
I think that would be much cleaner. Otherwise, it mixes up, I think, two objectives. Yeah.
Well, I'll read some of that and then maybe.
Can you share it or we're just wrapping up?
Here, give me a second.
I'm gonna stop sharing.
Yeah.
All right. 2 seconds. Here I go. All right. I'm gonna share it. Oh, they put another one in the chat. Oh no, that's a bill. That is. All right, let's just go back to the MetroCard one. Pull it back up now. All right. Not cut and paste. Let's do, therefore be it resolved.
Can you make it bigger, the font? Or
yes, you old lady. You're blind old lady. Okay, no, I'm blind too, and I don't have my glasses on. But there's the therefore be it resolved. I'll make it super big. Thank you, child. Okay. Therefore be it resolved.
But we'll say CB2 urges.
Yeah, we're going to say CB2. If we do this, urges MetroCard usage times from traveling to and from school and school-related activities to be expanded to board a bus or enter the subway up to 4 times per day between 5:30 and 10 every day. Encourages the MTA to enable high school students to be allowed to use the new phone-based Omni system for their public transportation, enabling them to use school funds for their travel without the complication of MetroCards. I like that.
Does that cover? Yeah.
Particularly, this speaks to high school students traveling to and from school and other activities. With rules, it's only to be used by the student to whom it is assigned.
Yeah.
For school and school-related activities. This is what the original rules. So we're talking about an expansion of 2 hours. Mondays and Wednesdays. Only during the school year.
That's true too, yeah.
Issued at the beginning of the semester, or the first semester, I guess. Oh, beginning of each semester, they get new ones. I wonder why. And I think that the Omni thing should be expanded to, you know, middle school students as well. Why just high school students? Is that a funding thing? We're going to have to find out. So this is just basically saying, I hate that word, but it is basically saying to extend the hours. Extend the hours.
Mm-hmm.
And the number of times you can use it. Are we all okay with this?
Could you guys say yay? All in favor, yay?
Yeah, I want to read it. Just
Oh, all right.
5:30 and 8:30 when school's open for classes. Well, this doesn't do the weekend thing you talked about.
No, it doesn't do the weekend, but we can add the
Oh,
weekend.
Oh no, there is the whereas where many schools hold Saturday classes. Didn't I see something in there?
Yeah. Do you see it, Mara? It's after the
for
bullet.
academic intervention.
Yeah, there we go. Yeah. All right, yeah. Yeah, therefore be
Here it
resolved.
is. And weekends. Students and
Yeah.
families must absorb any transportation costs for students to travel for school-related activities on weekends
That's what we're saying.
and extracurricular activities.
Yeah.
Access to 1-2 day trips, 2 trip. The logistics and required tracking of 2 trip Metro cards is an unnecessary burden on schools, I guess.
Yeah, but the resolution, the therefore be resolved.
What, it needs work?
No, I'm just saying there's 2. There's one that's bold. All right. They said be expanded up to 4 times a day and therefore be it further resolved. Yeah, that wasn't the conclusion I thought they were building to. They're just saying, hey, let them use the new phone-based stuff. Yeah, okay, that's fine.
I would add middle school students to the phone-based Omni system if possible, and add weekends to the therefore be it resolved for all the reasons listed in the whereas.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right.
So well, we'll circulate this with our committee members and get the vote.
Yeah.
So the meeting will come to it.
Thanks.
We're gonna adjourn the meeting. So thank you guys for coming.
Take care.
Good night.
Good night, everyone.
Good night. Thanks, everybody.
Good night. Thank you again.